So here we have PC Gamer asking the question. Tough games are designed to test patience and mastery, making them easy and to master the purpose, and you have this image here. Question. Should tough games have an easy mode for everyone to enjoy? And if we scroll the replies, most people will say no. The game itself isn't for everyone, which is fair. That's a good point. The jigsaw puzzles come really solved so that everyone can enjoy solving puzzles. That doesn't make any sense. Thing is, this is a common discussion nowadays with games. Should games have an easy mode? Well, not necessarily. Some games yes, some games no. Have you seen the last 40 years of games, maybe even more? Some games never had difficulty settings, and it's fine. Some of them had them, and it's also fine. Right? Mario games, Zelda games, they never had difficulty settings. Most turn-based RPGs, the ones that I know of at least, don't have difficulty settings. Usually, difficulty settings come from games that have some sort of action genre, right? Action games, hack and slash, shooters, even action RPGs like Tales of Series or The Elder Scrolls. But there are some games that could never work with a difficulty slider because they could break the game completely. The thing is, I also found a blog post from a couple of years ago that goes through this. This guy from Tyler F.M. Edwards says, "There's no valid argument why games shouldn't have difficulty settings." I skimmed through this. I don't think this guy understands what he's talking about because he completely destroys some of his arguments himself, which is really funny. But let's go through this. Last year, a developer for Elden Ring spoke on the lack of discrete difficulty settings in it and the gameplay's other acclaimed titles, saying that the extreme difficulty of these games gives meaning to the experience as justification for not including any kind of easy mode. Which makes sense. That is, it is difficult by design. It's part of the design. You don't have to agree with that. But that's a you problem. I never had much interest in Elden Ring or other From Software games. As a fan of the art form and occasional dabbler in game design, I find this point of view deeply illogical, and I'd like to take a moment to break down just why I find it so toxic. Toxic, you know that's a red flag. I had to ask, what harm would have any easy option actually do? Is it still playing on the current hard difficulty? What's an easy option taking away from you? You feel your experience of the game is cheapened by someone else getting to see the whole game with less effort? Grow up. I don't think that's the case. You will always have some people that say so, right? But the thing here is, if a game like Elden Ring is designed to be difficult, it should be difficult. Why is it designed to be difficult? I don't really know too much about Souls games, I never got into them. But it's probably to show that the world is dangerous. If you make it less dangerous, you take away from the immersion, from the lore, from the point of the game even. And let's about this argument I have also heard in defense of these games. Oh, defense with this C, this guy is British. Probably. Another red flag. But people don't want the easier difficulty because it would tempt them too much. If they had the option to easy mode through the game, they wouldn't be motivated to overcome extreme challenges as they do now. I don't think I've seen that argument, so I don't really know what to say about it. But if that's the case, is it really the challenge you enjoy? Or is more that you just want the bragging rights to say that you overcame it? That's also the case. Sure, I think that's fair. Whether it gets the motivation or not, if the difficulty is really what brings you joy, easy mode won't tempt you away from it. I don't think it's actual temptation. I think it comes from frustration at having to bang your head for hours against the boss. And sometimes you think, I'm so tired of this, let me out, sure. I will sell my soul, I will play in easy mode just to get away from this. But I don't think it's an actual temptation. That's just my opinion, once again. I'm not much of an adrenaline junkie in games. I play most things at around medium difficulty. There have been a few occasions where I've sought a greater challenge. In particular, my great love for StarCraft 2 and the fair and balanced challenge it provides sent me through all three of its main campaigns on Brutal, the highest difficulty. I've also completed hundreds of co-op missions and dozens of co-op mutations on Brutal, even completing one or two brutations solo after my partner disconnected on the load screen. StarCraft 2 is quite dangerous with its difficulty settings though. Brutal lives up to its name. There are 3 levels below that, going all the way down to casual, a mode so easy, I'm not sure it's even possible to lose. I never once has the presence of casual mode made me feel as if my struggles in Brutal were cheapened. Obviously not. It did not make me crave the challenge any less. I don't represent anyone who made it through the campaign without ever reaching so high as normal mode. Why would it? What someone else does with their game has no effect on me. And here he comes to completely destroy his own argument. Let's go back to the original comment. The difficulty is what gives meaning to the experience. It's a fundamentally flawed concept. These are video games, and there's little to no meaning to playing them. They are entertainment. You're not accomplishing something great, but beating up a pre-scripted artificial intelligence, no matter how challenging it may be. Then why are you playing StarCraft 2 on Brutal? That doesn't make any sense. It's obvious you find enjoyment in that, because some people find enjoyment in the gameplay. Because, let's be real, most video games have to be games first. The gaming part has to be good, it has to be appealing, it has to be interesting, it has to be somewhat unique. If it was just a narrative, read a book, obviously. So this doesn't make any sense to me at all. He goes over that point a little bit more here. What meaning can be found in games is found in the ways they affect us, the relationships we form through them, the stories they tell, the stories we create while playing them. Difficulty contributes only slightly to that, and in many ways it distracts from it. Perhaps everyone's story is powerful and moving, but no one who can't handle its difficulty will ever know, unless they watch it on YouTube or something. Where's the meaning in that? Because it's a video game. Has to be a game first. Isn't it so obvious? Sure, the narrative is important, but not every single game has a narrative, right? I had this conversation many years ago. Someone said, nah, but obviously video games need a plot, need some sort of overarching story. Well, that is completely true. And someone mentioned Minecraft, and that guy got really mad because, oh, Minecraft is so bad of a game. What about Tetris? What about Pac-Man? What about a billion other games? Are we gonna be honest? Pokemon games, they can be really fun. The narrative is just a pretext for the progression, okay? And sure, some people will need an appealing plot, an appealing story, appealing characters for them to enjoy the game. But you have the other side of the coin. People that play because the game is fun, they enjoy the systems, how they interact, the gameplay loop. And the average player would enjoy a mix of both. Obviously, it's a video and it's a game because it's a video game. I don't understand how we are still struggling with this idea nowadays. It's really strange to me. It's so really strange to me. And what about disabled players who simply can't play better? Yeah, some people do manage to play hard games despite their disability, but that isn't possible for everyone. How can you justify locking them out of a hobby just to throw the egos of your evil body customers? I've seen this argument many times before, and I don't want to take away from it, because I'm willing to believe this is true, but at the same time, I cannot really grasp here what is going on. I don't think it's about playing better if you're disabled. It's having a mismatch with your capabilities and a genre, right? Let's say an action game. if you have some sort of impairment with your hands, it's gonna be difficult to play because of the game mechanics. Because there are game mechanics for an action game. You probably wouldn't have much trouble playing a turn-based game because you can be slow, for example. But we didn't mention anything about the game being hard. We only talked about the game being an action game. So I'm having some trouble here. And I can give myself as an example. I'm trash with rhythm games. I'm trash with music. Should rhythm games be easier? Well, no, I'm just bad. I don't have the capabilities for that. Thankfully, I'm not a big fan of them anyway. So, nothing lost, but I don't understand. Also, how can you justify locking them out of a hobby to the egos of your able-bodied customers? I appreciate this guy's using customer for once, but how many hobbies you cannot get into because they're prohibitive? Oh man, I surely would love to run a marathon. Well, that's really taxing. Not a lot of people can do it. Oh, I would love to be a snowboarder. That's kind of expensive. What if it doesn't snow here? What am I supposed to do? I don't understand. It's this obsession with everything is for everybody. Well, no. It's not true. Everything is for anyone. Anyone can potentially join. It's not the same. Sounds similar, but it's not the same. I'm used to this kind of tiresome exclusionary thinking in the gaming community. MMORPGs have always been rife with it, despite being some of the easiest games around. Continuous debate for me is how people got these ideas in their heads in the first place. Another meaning of storytelling, that's why you fail. It's not just storytelling, it's interactive. You have to also interact. There's this kind of editor's thinking. No one's expecting depth of a skill to let you experience any other kind of story. When you start picturing what that would look like, you start realizing how absurd this whole thing is. Imagine if you weren't allowed to see Avengers Endgame unless you were able to actually beat up Josh Brolin. Well, no, but it's a game, and I do hate to throw this comparison, because I don't think it's fair. But it is the same with the sports, because there are also kind of quote-unquote interactive games. But you will never get to see this thing when you get the Gold Cup in soccer, for example. Well, yeah. Not many people get to do that, because you had to be really good for that. Just as a quick example. I do want to offer one significant caveat to all this. While I firmly believe there is no valid argument why games shouldn't have difficulty settings, there can be sometimes with valid reasons. Is that proper grammar? For why they can't have difficulty settings. Developers that have unlimited resources, especially the small ones, and implementing a variety of difficulty settings does take at least some effort. There are also games whose nature makes implementing separate difficulties challenging or downright impossible. And we've seen the discussion on social media many times. What makes a good hard mode? Just crunch the numbers, well, that's really bad, right? That's really bad. For example, let's say Dragon Quest, because we are playing through Dragon Quest V at this point. How do you make the game easier or more difficult? Cranking the numbers, well, that's only going to mean you will spend more or less time grinding to match your numbers to those, so that actually just only affects convenience and the natural progression of levels and characters. You also have a great example of both with Terraria. I remember when back in the day they added the expert mode. It was actually really cool because the enemies had new mechanics, and yes, they also played around with numbers a little bit, but it affected both you and the enemies, so I don't think that's a big of a deal, because the defense had a different calculation for damage reduction in the different modes. But enemies had new behaviors, they had new attacks, new stuff to do, and you got exclusive accessories from the bosses, which was a good hard mode. But then they added Master Mode, which was literally expert mode, but crank the numbers. But you get exclusive drops. They're exclusive, but they're really bad. They're just knickknacks at most. They had that really good flying mount, and they nerfed it to the ground. And it is really sad, because they actually have new mechanics for bosses, enemies, and whatnot, as some sort of higher difficulty level, but it was not into the master mode. It was locked behind special seeds for the worlds, which doesn't make any sense to me. It's just a massive fumble. I actually hate master mode. I don't see any reason to play in that mode. You're just going to max evasion and call it a day. That's what it did at least, and it works. Oh, RPGs are a good example of this. With a shared world occupied by many different players, there's an unclear way to allow each person to adjust the difficulty to their desired level, which makes sense. In those cases, I lean towards these difficulty levels that best align with the vision of the creators and the fantasy of the game, even if it means some people must be excluded. But what about if the vision of the creators in Elden Ring was to make the game difficult? Why is that wrong? Even then, an argument can be made that aim for the lowest common denominator is better. It never is. If you try to appeal to everyone, you appeal to nobody. It's just a slab. It's just bread and water. Indeed, that is what most MMOs seem to do. That's why all of them are bad nowadays. The two extensions I played, The Secret World and New World, both went up as fairly niche games, and I think their difficulty contributes to that. Niche means unique. Unique usually means good. At least means interesting. So there are some cases where catering to every type of player may not be feasible, but all reasonable efforts should be made to be as accessible as possible. If you're excluding people by choice, you've lost my respect as a developer. Sir, you are completely wrong. You are completely wrong. What about mixing the narrative with the mechanics? How about, well, this is supposed to be difficult because this is a big boss. Shouldn't that be a difficult big boss? Oh, but some people might struggle. That's the point! That's to show that the enemy is difficult. It's not difficult for the sake of being difficult. It's difficult to show that these enemies are powerful. It's using mechanics. It's a source for the narrative. That makes sense. Right? Even Pokemon games. Oh my god! The Elite Four, the champion, they're so strong. Well, they have to be strong. They are supposed to be the strongest, right? Some exceptions may apply. How is this such a revolutionary concept nowadays? I just don't understand. And when you look back, most games could be unplayable with difficulty settings. How do you make games like Zelda games easier or more difficult? Well, just think with the numbers. But why would you do that? Why would you do that? It doesn't make any sense. It has a designed progression for a reason. And speaking of Elden Ring, I, once again, don't know too much about Souls games, but it is my understanding about Elden Ring that you can actually grind, get more levels, and get more stats. It has RPG mechanics, as they say. So, if you're having trouble with the boss, why not go back and grind so you're stronger? I know that some players are not big fans of that, but once again, why would let them affect your gameplay? You're using in-game mechanics to beat the game, which is in logic, obviously, because they are in-game mechanics. They're there for a reason. Right? I just don't understand. This is just the usual, my accessibility, my quality of life. It's not accessibility, it's quality of life. It's making the games more simple, it's making the games easier, it's making the games just boring with that. I'm sorry, but it's not appealing. It's not appealing to anyone like that. And look, if you say, oh, but I want to play Elden Ring. Alas, the game is too difficult, I wish it was easier. That means Elden Ring is not for you. Because you want to play a different game. Because Elden Ring has been designed to be difficult. How is this so difficult to understand? Well, they're against difficulty, I suppose. Which is really stupid. But that is the world we live in. Ah, it's so difficult. Get good, or play something else. It's not for you, and that's fine. What about bullet hells? I like Toho games. I'm really bad. I'm really bad at them. I also don't have the patience to grind them enough. After a couple of runs, my eyes start to burn. And I'm not saying, well, maybe they should be easier. I understand. The problem is on me. Well, I'm not good enough. I guess I will never do not a one credit clear embodiment of Scarlet Devil. And I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. I understand that not every single game is for me. It would be insane to think otherwise.